Hello and good morning, Mandian Astral Oracles, coming to you from Copenhagen, Denmark, where it's cooler and more quiet than in Cancun, Mexico. It's good to be home, and it's taking some readjustment just with the physical aspects, because it's colder and darker here and everything, but it's also it's very neat and predictable, everything. And so this Sunday the live streams will be back, and I hope to see you there as we tune into the Lyran 9D Collective. And other than that, I wanted to do a channeling here from Copenhagen, and I wanted to talk about authority, because it's very present in Mexico. Partially, there are no corona restrictions here, and there were a lot in Mexico, so it was just ubiquitous, this presence of thou shalt not, and and feeling infectious and everything. But of course, it's also a country that's heavily policed, so there's just a lot of armed men in armored vehicles, and things like that, which are a bit strange to me. And I also do realize that for a lot of people who live in this reality instead, where, yeah, like there are people with loaded firearms patrolling their streets and everything. I do understand that it must also be um, like a far more dramatic confrontation, or sort of the tip of the iceberg, that all of a sudden there are all these disease regulations and everything too, because well, it's just, if you live in a society where you're already being heavily policed and reminded that you're a suspect, and something might be wrong with you, then of course it takes significantly less to tip the scales, and where you might feel like you're truly being oppressed. And so it's interesting for me, because I of course also realize that it like these things speak to the presence of, yeah, armed police forces and stuff. They sort of speak to our worst natures. So it's of course also just an expression of the fact that we feel like there are elements between us, other human elements, or even like the worst things that may run amok within ourselves, that may lead us down to a road where we actually need armed personnel, for instance. So I think it's an interesting topic, and I would love just to have some Arcturian perspectives on it. So let's get Umblam and the council to see what they have to say about this topic of authority. Yes, greetings, blessings, love and peace to you from I, Umblam of the Arcturian Council, and the rest of the Arcturian Council. So happy, overjoyed to communicate with you this day. And so, yes, what our friend here is speaking of, we have noticed too the proclivity for human beings to assign certain functions of patrolling, of keeping an eye on everyone, of making sure that everything is in place, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. This is a function that you like to assign to certain human individuals. It's in many ways quite wise of you. That is, if you feel that things may go wrong constantly, it's helpful to have someone there on the case that are simply assigned with the fact that they will have to deal with it if it goes wrong. And so, our dear friend here, who we are speaking to, he was pointing out the uneasiness with which he perceived this presence of armed personnel, of other human beings who are standing guard over him, and who may have to resort to violence to resolve situations that, well, may or may not arise, but at least the presence of armed personnel there, that sort of implies the idea that something is askew here, and it may develop in a way that may damage or hurt people in this situation. And so much as you have installed the angels above you to also see to it that things run somewhat predictably and somewhat responsibly in the infinite realms, so you have also assigned these guard posts to make sure that everything is properly managed down here. And so we would like to present the perspective to you that, well, this management is exactly what it's about. It's the idea that life is not completely yours. We see this has been a helpful way to construe reality for many human beings. The idea that somehow the world is also yours to loan but not to keep. It is yours to borrow but not to bury alongside with you. So there's an element of preciousness in the world that you want to protect and shield and guard. And you even want to protect and shield and guard it from the instincts within you, which might move towards exploitation, which might move towards you putting forward your own self-interest at the detriment or simply the cost of other individuals. And so this element of the law and of its enforcement, it's something that is also helpful as a collective manifestation in order to remind you that there are things which you feel are still more of a common possessions of things that will belong to the human collective, but that you are not allowed as an individual to infringe upon or to begin to move around with. And so all these guard posts, all these individuals that you dress up in a uniform and you hand a weapon to, they are in many ways reminding you of all the unguarded parts of you within yourself that you wish you could protect, that you wish you could put behind bars, so to speak, or to put them in a vault where they would be guarded. Your heart is often less protected than the local Walmart, and this is perhaps indeed why you then feel it's nice that the local Walmart is also protected by a security guard. The idea that, well, you are at risk wherever you go, and in many ways human societies serve to eliminate that risk, or at least make it less present in your immediate experience. And the way this risk is eliminated is exactly by putting in all these controls and safeguards, quite literally, to make sure that, well, things do not run amok. They flow in a predictable course, and there are certain stops. There is even a certain proclivity towards violence that guards you from total chaos. This is perhaps not something that's as pertinent for the people tuning into this message as it is for many others. And this is why you may perceive that it also speaks to, let's say, the more primitive or regulated, unconscious part of human nature. The fact that you need others to arm themselves and protect whatever it is that is standing from any type of change that may occur within it. And many of you tuning into this message, you are more aligned with your hearts. You are more aligned with the fact of your own inherent responsibility for the life you lead. And so you may feel that this outward manifestation of control, of inspection, so to speak, that it is something that in many ways bothers or infringes upon your sense of freedom and free expression, of your sense of autonomy. But for many human beings, this sense of autonomy is in many ways the untamed dragon that lies below their existence, that underscores everything, but that threatens to roll its back and shake off the individual riding it, or that threatens to submerge the individual in chaos at its own volition. And so what could be better than to post these knightly figures armed with clubs and sticks and firearms, only to make sure that when this submergence arises, and chaos will arise in every lifetime, if not before death, then with death, well, if that is the fear that you live with, then this seems like a small bargain to strike with reality, that someone will watch the corners and the unknown for anything dangerous that may arise, that there might be something that is worth protecting and that is worth staying vigilant, even afraid about. And this is the manifestation of authority. It will begin to dissipate slowly as human beings move into a greater degree of trust, of expression, and of abundance awareness. But as long as you also find yourself in realities where threatening elements seem to present and even impose themselves upon you from the unknown, then it is nice to have these known threatening elements present as a type of counter threat to the fear that you try to forget, but that may live on in your hearts. So these are some of the perspectives on why you may be wondering, what is the presence of this authority? What is the idea of all these uniformed individuals? What is the necessity of human beings guarding themselves against other human beings? Well, I, Umblam of the Arcturian Council, and the rest of the Arcturian Council, we have tried to shed some light on why human beings still play around with these roles and why they are indeed still relevant for many human beings, and therefore you still experience them as manifest in your existence. So with that, we transmit our deepest love to humanity, and we ask you to notice how the fact that these things do not seem self-evident to you is actually an indicator that you are also moving past them by questioning them. And so your move into your own power, your sense of autonomy, creation, and self-governance, we could say, these are all becoming far more present in the individual human experience, and thereby also gradually manifesting themselves in the collective experience. Our deepest love to you, our blessings, our guidance, and peace from on high we transmit